What if the woman everyone pitied at the Christmas party was the only one who knew the truth? The room sparkled like a postcard scene. Gold lights, crystal glasses, designer smiles. But the air felt ice cold the moment her pen hovered over the paper. Everyone was laughing. Everyone except her. Lena Caldwell stood at the center of the living room, shoulders stiff, fingers trembling ever so slightly as she prepared to sign her name. The Christmas party buzzed around her like she was invisible, like the moment she was about to live through didn't matter at all. To them, this was entertainment, closure, maybe even justice. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? And if you believe that stories of kindness, everyday miracles, and ordinary people deserve to be shared even further, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any journey like this one. To her, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff and choosing not to scream. No one noticed the way her breath caught. No one caught the tear slipping down her cheek. And absolutely no one in that room had any idea who Lena Caldwell really was. The divorce papers lay flat on a polished oak table, glowing almost white beneath the chandelier. Someone had placed a champagne flute nearby, half full, mocking her. A festive playlist hummed in the background, all bells and joy, like a cruel joke playing on repeat. "Go ahead," someone whispered, not softly enough. "Let's just get it over with." Lena didn't look up. She didn't need to. She already knew the expressions etched around her, thin smiles, raised brows, eyes filled with judgment. These people had watched her for years, always measuring, always assuming. To them, she was the woman who married well, lived quietly, and somehow still managed to mess it all up. A total letdown. She signed. The moment her pen hit the final stroke, a strange stillness settled inside her chest. Not relief. Not peace, something sharper, clearer. For 3 years, Lena had tried to make herself smaller to fit into a world obsessed with appearances. She had traded ambition for silence, swallowed words for the sake of harmony, told herself love meant patience, even when patience felt like disappearance. She had believed things would get better if she just tried harder. Big mistake. The problem wasn't that she wasn't enough. It was that she had been surrounded by people who only valued what they could see. Around her, the party rolled on. Laughter bubbled up again. Someone clinked a glass. Another guest whispered, "Guess fairy tales really are fake." Lena folded the papers neatly, her hands steadier now. Her gray coat still hugged her frame, like armor she hadn't realized she'd been wearing all night. She placed the documents down and slowly stood. That's when things shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to make the air feel different. The front door opened somewhere behind her. She didn't turn around, but her posture straightened. Her chin lifted. It was instinct, muscle memory. The kind you develop when you've spent your whole life learning when real power walks into a room. A few guests glanced toward the entrance. Conversations dipped. Smiles faltered. No one connected the dots yet, but they were about to. Because earlier that evening, a private plane had landed quietly at a nearby airport. No announcements, no spotlight. Just a man who had waited long enough stepping back into a story that wasn't finished. And Lena knew, before anyone said a word, that the night wasn't ending the way they thought it would. Not even close. And just as someone cleared their throat to speak her name, Lena realized the truth. The moment they tried to break her was the exact moment her real life was about to begin. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and return to our channel for more life-changing, emotional, and heartwarming stories. The door didn't slam. It didn't creak either. It opened smoothly, too smoothly, and somehow that made it worse. A hush rippled through the room like a wave no one admitted they felt. Lena stayed still, her back straight, her fingers curled calmly at her sides. She didn't need to turn around to know someone important had arrived. The silence gave it away. Wealth always announced itself, not with noise but with expectation. A man stepped inside. He wasn't flashy. No loud suit. No flashy tie screaming for attention. Just a tailored dark coat, quiet confidence, and eyes sharp enough to read a room in seconds. The kind of man who didn't chase power, because power always found him. Whispers started immediately. "Who's that? Is he with someone here? Why do I feel like I should know him?" Lena exhaled slowly. She turned, and for the first time that night her expression changed. Not fear, not relief, recognition. The man's gaze locked onto hers instantly, like he'd been looking for her the entire time. When their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. Years of restraint, distance, and quiet understanding. A few steps later, he was standing beside her. "Lena," he said calmly, just her name, nothing dramatic. Yet somehow the sound cut clean through the room. People stared. Her soon-to-be ex-husband froze mid-sip of champagne. His parents, who had been smiling minutes ago, now looked confused, uneasy. Someone in the corner whispered the man's name under their breath. And that's when the mood really shifted, because recognition spread fast. "Wait, that's Harrison Caldwell." "No way, you're kidding." That Caldwell, yes, that Caldwell, founder, investor, the guy whose signature alone could spike markets before lunch. And yet here he was, standing next to the woman they had just publicly humiliated like she was nothing. Lena felt his hand rest gently on her shoulder. It wasn't protective. It was grounding. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "I'm good," and she meant it. Harrison turned to the room, his expression neutral, unreadable. He didn't raise his voice, didn't demand attention. He didn't have to. Everyone was already watching him like he held all the cards, because he did. "I apologize for the interruption," he said evenly. "I was invited a bit last minute." No one laughed. No one moved. Harrison's eyes drifted toward the table, toward the papers, toward the pen still resting there like a witness. "I assume this is finished?" he asked. Lena answered before anyone else could. "Yeah, it's done." The word hung heavy in the air. Done. Some people shifted uncomfortably now. The same faces that had smirked earlier were suddenly tight, calculating. This wasn't the ending they'd imagined. This wasn't the powerless woman they thought they were watching fall apart. Because Lena wasn't alone. She never really had been. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that Lena hadn't called Harrison for help. He'd come on his own, because tonight wasn't about rescuing her. It was about witnessing something long overdue. Harrison leaned slightly toward her and said, low enough that only she could hear, "You ready to go?" Lena looked around the room one last time. The fake sympathy, the broken assumptions, the shocked silence. A slow, calm smile touched her lips. "Yeah," she said, "I'm more than ready." But just as they turned to leave, someone finally spoke, and that one sentence threatened to flip the entire night upside down. "Hold on." The voice cut through the room like glass. Lena stopped mid-step. Harrison didn't. He kept walking one calm step forward until Lena gently placed her hand against his arm, not because she was scared, not because she needed saving, but because this moment was hers. She turned. The voice belonged to Victor Hale, her almost ex-husband, standing stiff beside the drinks table, jaw tight, pride hanging by a thread. His suit was perfect. His expression was not. The champagne glass in his hand shook just enough to give him away. "Are we seriously doing this?" Victor said, forcing a laugh that landed flat. "You're just gonna walk out without saying anything? After everything?" Lena tilted her head slightly. "After everything, that's funny." A ripple of unease spread through the guests. This wasn't the quiet exit they'd expected. This was getting messy, and mess made people nervous. Victor straightened, puffing his chest like he still owned the room. "Let's not pretend," he said. "We all know what this is. You had a comfortable life, Lena, connections, status, and you still threw it away." A few guests nodded. Others avoided eye contact. Lena smiled, not sweet, not bitter, clear. "You really believe that?" she asked calmly. Victor scoffed. "Come on, without my family, without this circle, what would you be? Be honest." Harrison's presence behind her was steady, silent. He said nothing. He didn't need to. Lena took a step forward. "For years," she said, "I let people talk over me because I thought keeping the peace was the same thing as being respected. Turns out that was my bad." Gasps flickered through the room. "I didn't lose status," she continued. "I lost patience. Big difference." Victor's smile cracked. "You think standing next to him changes facts?" Lena glanced at Harrison, then back at Victor. "No," she said. "Facts don't change, they just finally show up." The tension was thick now. You could feel it clinging to the walls, crawling under skin. This was no longer entertainment. This was exposure. Victor pointed toward Harrison. "And what he's here to what? Intimidate us?" Harrison finally spoke. "No," he said evenly. "I'm here because I was invited." Victor laughed sharply. "By who?" Harrison didn't hesitate. "By Lena." The room went dead silent. That wasn't true, not completely, but no one there knew that. And the way Harrison said it made it feel undeniable. Lena met Victor's eyes. "I spent years shrinking so you could feel big," she said quietly. "Tonight I'm done doing that." Victor's mother stepped forward, her voice tight. "Lena, don't be dramatic, let's end this with dignity." Lena's gaze flicked to her. "I already did," she said. "You just didn't notice." She turned again toward the door. This time she didn't stop. Harrison matched her pace. Behind them whispers erupted, regret, shock, fear. Because the truth was settling in. They hadn't watched a woman fail. They had watched her walk away, with everything still intact. But as Lena stepped into the cold night air, she realized this wasn't the end. Because the one secret she'd kept hidden for years was about to come out. The cold hit Lena's face the second she stepped outside. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't poetic. It was sharp, like the kind of cold that wakes you up whether you're ready or not. Snow crunched beneath her heels as she walked down the wide stone steps of the estate. Behind her, muffled voices spilled out through the open door, people scrambling to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. Harrison stopped beside the black sedan waiting at the curb. "You sure you're okay?" he asked again, his tone steady but watching her closely now. Lena wrapped her coat tighter around herself. "I thought I'd feel wrecked," she admitted. "But honestly, I feel lighter, like I dropped a weight I wasn't supposed to be carrying in the first place." Harrison studied her for a beat, then nodded. "That's usually how freedom shows up." The driver stepped out, opening the door, but before Lena could get in, voices burst through the night air. "Wait!" They turned. Victor stood at the top of the steps, coat thrown on carelessly, pride completely gone now. The party lights behind him made him look smaller somehow, less impressive, less certain. "Lena," he called, walking toward her. "We need to talk." She didn't move. "We already did," she said evenly. Victor swallowed. "No, we didn't. Not really. You don't just walk away like that with someone like him and expect people not to assume things." She finally faced him fully. "People have been assuming things about me my entire life," she said. "I'm done letting that control me." Victor's voice cracked. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." Lena laughed softly, not cruelly, not smugly. "No," she said. "You embarrassed yourself. I just stopped covering for it." Harrison stepped forward, not threatening, not angry, just present. "Victor," he said, calm as ever, "this conversation is over." Victor's eyes flicked to him, then back to Lena. "You think you've won something tonight?" Lena shook her head. "That's the thing, this was never about winning." She opened the car door. Before she stepped inside, Victor blurted, "You think hiding your past makes you strong. You think we don't know anything?" Lena paused. For a fraction of a second, the night seemed to hold its breath. She turned back slowly. "I wasn't hiding," she said. "I was choosing." Victor frowned. Choosing what? Who deserved access, she replied. She got into the car. As the door closed and the vehicle pulled away, Victor was left standing alone on the steps, staring after a woman he never actually knew. Inside the car, the city lights blurred past the windows. Harrison glanced at her. "You knew that would happen," he said. "Yeah," Lena replied. "I was expecting it." "So why stay quiet all these years?" he asked gently. Lena looked straight ahead. "Because I wanted to know who loved me without the noise, without the name, without the leverage." Harrison's jaw tightened slightly, not in anger but in respect. "You gave them chances they didn't deserve," he said. "Maybe," she answered, "but now I know something important." "What's that?" She finally turned toward him, eyes calm, clear, unbreakable. "I'm not afraid of what comes next." Because what Victor planned to expose next was the very thing that would end up destroying him. Victor didn't sleep that night. By morning, the embarrassment had curdled into something uglier: resentment. He paced his penthouse like a caged animal, replaying the way the room had gone quiet, the way Lena had walked out without looking back, the way Harrison Caldwell had barely lifted a finger and still owned the moment. Victor hated that. So he did what insecure men always do when they feel exposed. He lashed out. By noon, messages started popping up. Private texts, side-channel emails, quiet calls to people who owed him favors. "Dig," he told them. "I want everything." By evening, he had enough to be dangerous, or so he thought. The story leaked just before midnight. A headline slid onto feeds like a slow poison. Who is Lena Caldwell really? The past she never talked about. Victor watched the shares climb, satisfaction curling in his chest. This was control. This was leverage. If he couldn't humiliate her in the room, he'd do it in public. Phones buzzed across the city. Friends, former colleagues, even people who hadn't spoken to Lena in years suddenly remembered her number. Because the article didn't frame her as powerful. It framed her as suspicious. Questions were planted carefully. Why did she avoid talking about her family? Why did she marry into wealth if she claimed to value simplicity? Why would someone like Harrison Caldwell show up for her? Victor leaned back, convinced he'd finally reclaimed the upper hand. Meanwhile, Lena sat quietly at her kitchen table, scrolling through the headline without flinching. Her coffee sat untouched, her face calm. Harrison stood by the window, arms folded. "He thinks this hurts you," Harrison said. Lena smiled faintly. "It would've a few years ago," he turned. "You ready to stop protecting them?" Lena looked down at the screen, the lies, the half-truths, the assumptions wrapped in speculation. She set the phone down. "It's not about revenge," she said. "It's about clarity." She stood, walked to the bookshelf, and pulled out a slim folder she hadn't touched in years. Inside were documents, not secrets, not scandals, receipts. Harrison raised a brow. "You sure?" Lena met his gaze. "They wanted the truth. They just don't realize which version they're about to get." By morning, Victor's confidence crumbled, because instead of denial, Lena went silent. No statement, no defense. No social media meltdown, just quiet. And quiet, when it's intentional, makes people nervous. By afternoon, calls started flooding Victor's phone. "What exactly did you release? Are you sure this plays in your favor? You didn't think this through." Victor snapped. "She's hiding. That's all." But deep down, doubt crept in. Because Lena didn't hide. She waited. And when she finally spoke, she didn't whisper. What Lena revealed next didn't just stop the rumors. It made everyone question who the real liar was. The press didn't get a leak. They got an invitation. At exactly 9 a.m., every major outlet received the same message: short, clean, impossible to ignore. "A private statement will be released today at noon." No interviews. No questions, just facts. Victor read it twice, pulse quickening. No interviews meant no spin. No questions meant no escape. By noon, the statement went live. not on a gossip site, not through a PR agency. On a single, verified platform owned by Caldwell Global. The headline was simple, a clarification. No drama, no accusation, just truth. Lena's words followed, measured, direct, unshakable. She spoke about stepping away from privilege by choice, not exile. About building a life without shortcuts. About marrying for love, not position, and learning what happens when people confuse silence for weakness. She didn't mention Victor's name. That omission screamed louder than any insult. Then came the documents, timelines, legal filings, confirmations from third parties, proof that she had never taken financial advantage of her family name, proof that she had declined offers others would kill for, proof that the narrative being pushed wasn't just wrong, it was lazy. The internet shifted instantly. Comments flipped. Speculation died. And a new question rose to the surface. Why did Victor Hale try so hard to control the story? Victor watched it all unravel in real time. His phone buzzed nonstop. Board members, investors, friends who suddenly weren't friends anymore. You told us she was desperate. You said she had nothing. You said this was safe. Safe. That word burned. By evening, a second article surfaced, not released by Lena, released about Victor, about the timing of the leak, about his motive, about what he stood to gain. It didn't accuse, it connected dots. And when people start connecting dots, reputation bleeds fast. Lena closed her laptop quietly. Harrison watched her, pride written plain across his face. You didn't take a single shot you didn't need to, Lena exhaled. I wasn't trying to destroy him. No, Harrison said. You just stopped covering for him. Silence settled between them, not heavy but full. For the first time in years, Lena felt seen without being exposed, free without being reckless. But across the city, Victor stared at his reflection, realizing something too late. This wasn't a scandal, it was a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. But just when Lena thought the storm was over, one final confrontation was set in motion, face to face, with nothing left to hide. Victor showed up uninvited. No cameras, no audience, no backup plan, just him, standing outside the glass doors of Caldwell Global looking smaller than he ever had. Lena watched from her office as security called up. She didn't rush. She didn't flinch. She took her time, finishing the last line of an email before finally saying, "Let him up." When Victor stepped inside, he barely looked like the same man who had once strutted through parties like he owned the world. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were red. The confidence he lived off was gone, replaced with raw panic. "You didn't have to do that," he said the second the doors closed. Lena gestured toward the chair across from her desk. "Sit." He hesitated, then obeyed. "You ruined me," Victor said, voice cracking. "Everything's collapsing. Deals are frozen. People won't return my calls." Lena leaned back calmly. "I didn't ruin anything. I told the truth." "You knew what would happen," he snapped. "Yes," she replied. "I did." Silence stretched. Victor clenched his fists. "Why, after everything we shared, after years together?" Lena's expression softened, but only slightly. "Years together isn't the same as years respected," she said. "I gave you loyalty, you gave me control. That's not fair." "It's accurate," Victor shook his head. "You could have warned me. You could have handled this privately." "I tried," Lena said quietly. "For years, you ignored me every time." That landed. Hard, Victor stood suddenly. "So what now? You just walk away while I burn?" Lena stood too, meeting his eyes without fear. "No," she said. "Now you live with the version of yourself you showed the world." He swallowed. "And you," she smiled, not cruel, not smug. "I move forward." Security appeared at the door. Victor didn't fight it. As he was escorted out, he looked back one last time. "You think this makes you better than me?" he asked. Lena paused. "No," she said. "It makes me free." The doors closed behind him. Lena exhaled slowly, the tension finally leaving her shoulders. Harrison stepped in moments later. "You okay?" she nodded. "I am now." But deep down, she knew one thing. This story wasn't finished yet. Because freedom isn't just about walking away. It's about choosing what you walk toward. And in the final chapter, Lena makes a choice that no one, including Harrison, expects. The city woke up softer that morning. Not quieter, just lighter. Lena stood by the window of her new apartment, sunlight brushing the glass, coffee warming her hands. No headlines, no panic, no damage control. For the first time in years, there was nothing pulling her backward. Harrison joined her, hands in his pockets. "You ever notice how calm comes after the chaos?" he said. Lena smiled. "Yeah, nobody tells you that part." Her phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. "Victor, I see it now. I should have listened. I'm sorry." Lena stared at the screen for a long moment, then she deleted it. No response. No closure speech. No final word. Because closure isn't something you give someone else. It's something you decide for yourself. Later that day, Lena walked into a modest community center across town. No cameras followed her. No press waited outside. Just a small room filled with young women, some nervous, some curious, all of them watching her like they weren't sure if she belonged there. She stepped forward anyway. "I'm not here because I have all the answers," Lena said. "I'm here because I once believed staying quiet would keep me safe. It didn't." The room leaned in. "I learned something the hard way," she continued. "People don't respect sacrifice when they don't understand its cost." Eyes softened. Heads nodded. This was what she chose next. Not revenge, not dominance, purpose. That evening, Harrison watched her from the doorway, pride unhidden now. "You sure this is what you want to do?" he asked. Lena didn't hesitate. "Yeah. I spent years proving I could survive. Now I want to matter," he smiled. "Your mother would have liked that." Lena exhaled, steady. Outside, Christmas lights were being taken down across the city. Another season ending. Another chapter closed. But this time, Lena wasn't walking away quietly. She was walking forward on her own terms. And somewhere in rooms full of people who once underestimated her, the truth finally settled in. She was never powerless. She was patient. And patience, when it ends, looks a lot like strength. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and return to our channel for more life-changing, emotional, and heartwarming stories.